A woman once told me, "I work hard, I fight for everything, and still inside my own home it feels like things just disappear." Now look at your front door for 3 seconds. Is anything blocking the way? Shoes, a purse, boxes, anything at all? Because this right here is where many homes start losing what's good without even noticing. Small arguments turn into big ones, a tiredness that never really goes away, and this strange feeling when you walk in, like the air itself feels heavy. An elderly rabbi once taught me something very simple. Salt isn't magic. It's a symbol of boundaries, clarity, and order, but it only works if it's in the right place, and if you avoid a tiny mistake that can cancel the whole effect in seconds. And starting January 2026, that place begins right here, at the entrance, and yes, do it quietly. Don't tell anyone while you're doing it. In less than 3 minutes, I'll show you the 5 places, and the one small mistake that ruins everything for most people. If you're going to do it the right way, comment, "I'll do it in silence." Now I'll do exactly what I promised, simply and clearly. There are 5 places in your home where salt can be placed, and each one affects a different part of the home's flow. Pay attention: the main entrance, a dark or forgotten corner, behind furniture; the kitchen, near the pantry or where food is stored; near a drain or the trash; the most common place for leaks; the main window, the one that exchanges the most air with the outside. In less than 3 minutes, you'll know which of these 5 matters most for your situation. And I'll also show you the tiny seconds-long mistake that makes many people lose the effect without realizing it. One important thing first. This is a symbolic and educational practice about order, intention, and care for your space. It's not a promise of miracles. It's not money falling from the sky. It's about organizing the inside so life can start moving again on the outside. Now, let's start with the first one, because it decides everything: the front door. Maybe you're listening to this and thinking, "But I'm not reckless with money. I work hard, and still it feels like nothing sticks." And the worst part isn't even the money. It's the feeling that the house never truly rests. You walk in and immediately feel the weight. Small things turn into arguments. A sideways look turns into silence. And that exhaustion, it's not physical. It's like the air itself is tired. And when that happens, we try everything. We organize bills. We replace something. We move furniture around. We buy a new decoration. We make that quiet promise in our head: this time, it's going to work. But inside, everything feels the same. I remember a phase in my life when I worked non-stop, and money slipped through my fingers like water. And the strangest part was, it wasn't lack of effort. It felt like, at the very last second, something always closed the door. Until one day, genuinely exhausted, I remembered an old phrase, one of those pieces of wisdom that stay buried in memory. My grandmother used to say there's a kind of wisdom you won't find in polished books or quick advice. She used to say, when a house feels heavy, it's not just the house, it's what got stuck inside it. She would talk about an elderly rabbi, a quiet man, few words, who helped people during difficult seasons. No miracles, no grand promises, just small actions done with real intention. So I went, not because I was spiritual, but because I was tired of repeating the same cycle. When I arrived, he didn't ask many questions. He didn't lecture me. He didn't try to impress me. He just looked at me, the way someone looks when they can see what we try to hide, even from ourselves. And I told him everything. I talked about the money that never stayed, the opportunities that almost happened, and then disappeared, the weight inside my home, the feeling of always rushing and never arriving anywhere. He stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said something I've never forgotten. "You're trying to open doors out there, but the first door is the one to your home, and it might be closing you in from the inside." After that, he took an empty glass jar, placed it in front of me with an almost exaggerated care, as if that jar actually mattered, and said firmly, without drama, "Salt." That was it. Then he continued, "Most people use salt without understanding what it represents. It marks boundaries. It preserves. It separates what contaminates from what needs to stay clean." And then he said the part that always makes people stop and listen. "This only works if you do it the right way, and in silence." He paused, looked straight at me and warned, "Don't tell anyone while you're doing it, not because it's forbidden, but because secrecy protects intention." Then he finished with the sentence that changes everything. "Before choosing the place, you need to prepare the jar the right way, because if the beginning is wrong, the rest loses its strength." And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you now. So pay close attention, because this is where most people get it wrong. The method is simple, but it doesn't work when someone does it carelessly, in a rush, or just to see if it works. You'll need only 3 things. First, a clear glass jar. Glass, not plastic, not metal. Glass is like a window. It doesn't trap, it doesn't distort. It simply allows clarity. And clarity is exactly what we want here. Second, coarse salt. Not fine table salt. Coarse salt. Preferably sea salt, because it holds its shape, its grain, its presence. Third, intention. And let me be clear about this part. Your intention is not to ask while thinking about debt, fear, or problems. That matters. The rabbi told me this: don't focus on what you want to remove, focus on what you want to allow in. So when you place the salt into the jar, you don't need to say anything. You just need to feel for a few seconds a simple image inside you, a lighter home, a more organized life, doors opening naturally, without force. And this is where the 3 rules come in, the ones that give this its strength. Rule number 1, do it slowly. It's not about quantity, it's about presence. Rule number 2, do it in silence. And when I say silence, I don't just mean not speaking out loud, I mean not explaining it, not justifying it, not asking for opinions. Rule number 3, once you choose the place, you don't keep touching it, checking it every day or moving it around. And now I'm going to reveal the seconds-long mistake that cancels the effect. This mistake is very common, especially among anxious, exhausted people who want fast results. The mistake is this: you place the jar and immediately think, does this even work? This is probably silly. That thought seems small, but it breaks what you're building here. Because in practice, what you're doing is opening a door, and at the same time holding it shut with your hand. If you're going to do this, do it fully. You don't need to believe in it like a religion, but you do need to treat it with respect, like a commitment. Now comes the most important part, because the jar, prepared with coarse salt and intention, only becomes a real key when it's placed in the right spot. And we're starting with the first place, the most important one, the most decisive one, the front door of your home. The entrance isn't just a place you walk through, it's a point of decision. That's where the outside world comes in, and where what's yours begins. And that's why, when the entrance feels heavy, life feels heavy. When the entrance feels blocked, things start to stall. And when the entrance feels cluttered, the mind tends to feel cluttered too. The rabbi explained it to me in the simplest way. The front door is like the mouth of the house. Everything that passes through it reaches the heart of the home. Think about that for a second. How many times have you come home exhausted, and before even sitting down, you already felt irritated? How many times have you opened the door and immediately thought, ugh, there's so much to deal with? The entrance holds that. So here's the right way to use the jar in the first place. You don't need to turn your entryway into a shrine. You only need to do one thing: create a clear path. Because the most common mistake is this: someone places the jar near the front door, but the entrance itself stays blocked by excess. Shoes, shopping bags, boxes, stuff piled up. Things that were just temporary and somehow stayed for months. And the house reads that as a message. There's no room for anything new. So before placing the jar, you're going to do something quick, something that already shifts your mindset too. Choose one single spot near the entrance and keep it clear. Just a small space, a corner, enough to silently say, this is where good things are allowed to enter. Now with that space ready, place the jar with salt near the entrance, discreetly. It doesn't need to be in the middle of the walkway. This is an act of care, not display. And here's an important guideline: do this in silence. No announcing it, no explaining it, no asking for opinions, because the moment you start telling people, you become hostage to comments. And other people's comments, and even well-intended ones, introduce doubt. And doubt is what most quickly cancels this kind of practice. Now, I want to share a simple sign that many people notice when they do place number 1 the right way. The first sign isn't money showing up. The first sign is the air in the house. You walk in and it feels like there's more room in your chest, like the house can breathe again, and some people notice something subtle but important: less friction. Fewer pointless arguments, less irritation out of nowhere, less of that constant feeling of being on edge. And that matters, because when the house feels lighter, you think more clearly, you make better decisions, you act with more intention, and that's when doors outside the house start opening too. Now, the entrance is the beginning, but there is another place, one that holds the oldest and quietest blockage in the home, and that's exactly why this works so well. This is the second place. Now I'm going to take you to a spot that almost no one thinks about, and that's precisely why it's so powerful. The dark corner, that space behind the couch, behind the dresser, under the stairs. That little corner you don't see every day. But that's still there, holding things. The rabbi explained it to me like this: whatever the house hides, life tends to repeat. Because a home doesn't just store dust. It stores what was never said. It stores tension. It stores accumulated worry. And I know this might sound abstract, but notice how it shows up in everyday life. You walk into a room and feel uncomfortable for no clear reason. You want to rest, but your mind won't slow down. You try to relax, but it feels like something is always unresolved. Many times that's an inner corner too, and that's why the second place goes straight to the root. It touches what's been stuck for a long time. Here's how to do it the right way, without turning your house upside down. First, you're not going to start dragging furniture all over the place. You'll choose one single dark corner, just one. And before placing the jar, you'll make a very simple gesture. You'll clean that corner in the most minimal way possible. It doesn't need to be perfect, just remove the most obvious excess, a piece of paper, visible dust, an object that clearly doesn't belong there. Because the most common mistake is this: someone places the jar in a dark corner, but the corner remains a storage space for weight, and then the message the house receives is mixed. Now, with that corner chosen, place the jar with salt there, carefully, as if you were drawing a boundary. And this part is very important. After you place it, you don't keep checking on it, touching it, or testing it. This jar is not a thermometer. It's a symbol of decision. You've decided that this corner will no longer be a place of neglect. And when you do this in silence, without announcing it, something begins to shift, slowly. And I'll tell you a sign that shows up in many homes within the first week, especially for people who live tired and anxious: sleep. Sometimes people fall asleep and wake up with less tightness in their chest, or they notice their thoughts slow down a bit at night, or that pointless arguments decrease. And pay attention. That's not small, because when the mind rests, life starts to reorganize itself. Now I want to open an important loop here. The dark corner works on what's stuck, but there's a third place that works on support. And for many women, this place changes how the entire house feels as early as the next day. It's the kitchen. Now I want to talk about a place connected to a word everyone understands, even if they've never named it: support, sustenance. The kitchen is where the home is nourished. It's where you prepare, it's where you take care, and often it's where you unload your exhaustion at the end of the day. And the rabbi told me something that sounds simple, but lands deep. Sustenance responds to order, and disorder speaks to the mind more than you realize. Because when the kitchen feels chaotic, life tends to feel chaotic too. And I'm not talking about a picture-perfect kitchen, the kind you see in magazines or on HGTV. I'm talking about something this audience knows very well. That cabinet you open and immediately feel discouraged. That shelf where things are shoved back. That quiet feeling of, I need to deal with this, that keeps getting postponed. And that becomes daily mental noise. Now, the right way to use the jar in the third place is very straightforward. You're going to choose one spot in the kitchen that represents your sustenance. It can be near the pantry, near where you keep rice, beans, flour, coffee, or any small corner you associate with food and provision. And before placing the jar, you'll do a micro-action that changes the atmosphere of the house in about 30 seconds. Choose 3 items and line them up. That's it. 3 containers, 3 boxes, 3 things. No perfectionism. Why? Because the most common mistake here is trying to do too much and then giving up. And there's a second, quieter mistake that blocks many people: keeping expired, broken, or useless items just in case. That sends an internal message of scarcity. It's as if the house is saying, there won't be enough, so hold on to anything. And when we live with that message, even unconsciously, the mind becomes tight, anxious, heavy. So if you find something expired, something you know you don't use anymore, just acknowledge it and let it go. You don't need to deep clean the entire kitchen, just one intentional gesture. Then you place the jar with salt at that point of sustenance, discreet, steady, silent. Now, what are the signs of this place? Many people report something interesting in the first few weeks. The desire to organize increases without suffering. The mind feels clearer, and you start making small decisions with more confidence. And small decisions are the beginning of real prosperity. Because prosperity doesn't start with a big break. It starts when you stop leaking energy into noise. Now, the kitchen works on sustenance, but there's a place that works on something even more direct: what leaves. And this is where almost everyone is surprised, because it's the place where a home leaks the most. This is the 4th place. Now I'm going to show you the spot where most homes leak, and almost no one notices. And when I say leak, I'm not just talking about water. I'm talking about everyday energy, motivation, lightness, drive, and even money that comes in and quietly disappears, because the drain and the trash are exit points. They're places where the house is constantly sending things out. And the rabbi explained it to me like this: if a home has an exit that's dirty, chaotic, or neglected, it gets used to pushing things away. And this shows up very clearly in everyday life. Sometimes nothing dramatic is happening, but life never seems to settle. You pay one bill, another shows up. You fix one thing, a new issue appears, and you feel like you're always catching up. That's the leak point. So here's the right way: simple, practical, and often relieving very quickly. First, choose one of these 2, depending on your situation. If your home feels more heavy and chaotic, choose the trash. If your home feels more like constant exhaustion and things slipping away, choose the drain. Now comes the most important micro-action for this place. Before placing the jar, you're going to make a small gesture of respect toward the house. You're going to leave that exit point closed and clean. It doesn't have to be perfect, just the basics. If it's the trash, a properly tied bag, no open leftovers, no pile sitting there for later. If it's the drain, just make sure there's no visible build-up, no bad smell, no feeling of neglect. And here's the mistake that cancels this for a lot of people. It's a small, quick, very common mistake. They place the jar with salt near the drain or the trash, but keep the exit itself open, messy, and unattended. It's like turning on the heat and leaving the window wide open in winter. The house receives 2 opposite messages. I want to keep what's good, and at the same time, you're free to leave. Now, this matters. Once that point is minimally cared for, place the jar with salt nearby, discreetly, without making a display of it. And do it in silence. Don't announce it, don't explain it. Because this is the kind of place that invites comments, and comments create doubt. And I want you to understand something. This method doesn't require blind faith. It requires consistency. Now, the signs of place number 4 are very specific. Many people report in the first few days a sense of relief in the body, as if the house feels lighter, as if the space becomes easier to breathe in. And sometimes a behavioral sign appears. You start resolving things that were stuck, with less internal resistance. You make a phone call, you reply to an old message, you make a decision you've been postponing. That's a sign that the energy of exit has stopped being a hole and has become a simple, organized path. Now, if you've made it this far, you already have 4 places. Only the 5th remains, and it's the most open place of all, the one that connects your home to the world. And for many people, this is where the feeling of hope returns. It's the main window. Now we've reached the 5th place. And it's special because, unlike the others, it isn't a closed point, A window is a point of exchange. It's how the house breathes. It's how light comes in. It's how the air gets renewed. And the rabbi used to say something that sounds poetic, but is very practical. When a window is blocked, life runs out of air. And sometimes the blockage isn't physical. There's nothing in front of it, but the house still feels stuffy, heavy, like the mind has no room for hope. That's why this place is so powerful for people who feel like they're living in tight spaces, always closed in, always bracing, always thinking, this won't work. Here's how to do it the right way as without overdoing it. First, choose your main window. The one you feel represents your home. And before placing the jar, make a very small gesture of opening. You don't need to spend hours cleaning. Just open that window for 1 minute and let the air move. While it's open, take one deep breath. And that's it, because the intention here isn't to create another obligation, it's to create a signal. Then place the jar with salt near the window, in a safe, discreet spot where it won't fall. And here's something essential to understand. When you choose the window, you're not asking life to bring everything in. You're saying, I allow in what's good for me. And that alone changes how you experience your own home. Now, the common mistake with this fifth place is this. Someone places the jar, but continues living with everything closed. Windows never open. Air never changes. Light never comes in. The home becomes a place of accumulation, not renewal. And renewal is part of prosperity. Prosperity is also air, space, clarity. Now the signs of this place. Many people notice that after a few days the house feels different, not dramatic, subtle, but noticeable. You walk in and feel less tightness. You think more calmly. You make decisions with less fear. And for someone who's lived under weight for a long time, that's a big sign. Now I want to do something for you. I'm going to summarize everything, simply, so you don't get lost. If you want to start today, choose just one place. If you feel like life has stalled, start with the front door. If you feel like old things are stuck, go to the dark corner. If you feel disorder around provision, go to the kitchen. If you feel like everything slips away, go to the drain or the trash. If you feel a lack of hope and air, choose the window. And now, before I tell you the real stories that make this click in people's minds, I need to tell you one truth. The jar is not the power. The power is the decision you're making when you do this, and that's where many people begin to change the house, and then life slowly follows. Now I'm going to tell you 2 short stories, not to convince you with fantasy, but to show you how this shows up in real life, first on the inside, then on the outside. A woman once came to me saying that everything inside her home felt tense. It wasn't loud fighting. It was worse than that. It was constant tension. Her husband would walk in already closed off. The kids snapped at the smallest things, and she was never truly rested, not even in her sleep. She said something I've never forgotten. I go to bed exhausted, and I wake up even more exhausted. It feels like the house is chewing me up. I taught her exactly what I've taught you here. She chose a dark corner in the living room, behind a piece of furniture she hadn't moved in years. She placed the jar in silence. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't keep testing it. And in the first few days, nothing magical happened. Life went on as usual. But about a week later, something small changed. Her husband came home and didn't complain. He sat down and took a breath, as if, for the first time in a long time, he actually felt at home. 2 weeks later, the kids started playing together more and arguing less. And she told me, I can't explain it, but the air feels different. And that matters, because when the air changes, the mind changes. When the mind changes, people make better decisions. And then, yes, doors outside the house begin to open too. When money stops disappearing. Sometime later, I noticed something similar myself. I had placed the jar with salt near a clear leak point in my home. I was tired, discouraged, with the feeling that everything came in and immediately went out. I did it in silence, and I left it alone. In the first week, what changed was my body. I slept better. I woke up less irritated, and I stopped postponing certain things. In the second week, something unexpected happened. An old project, one I had already written off, came back. A message arrived, an opportunity that had been stalled, started moving. And then something even more symbolic happened. Someone paid me back old money that I hadn't even been expecting anymore. And I'm not telling you this to promise money falling from the sky. I'm telling you this because this is how it works in real life. First, you stop leaking energy. Then you start seeing what was hidden before. And then things begin to reorganize themselves. And here's a sentence the rabbi told me that I've never forgotten. Don't thank the salt. Thank the decision you made when you chose to do it properly. Because the object itself is simple. What changes is what it represents, in your mind and in your home. Now, if this kind of teaching genuinely helps you organize your home, your mind, and your life, then I'll ask you something simple. Subscribe to the channel. Because here we don't talk about shortcuts or empty promises. We talk about small actions that create order, and order invites calm, and calm brings clarity, and clarity changes direction. Now I need to warn you about something, because this is what separates people who do this and feel results, from people who do it and later say, it didn't work. There is an invisible enemy that ruins this process, and it's not the type of salt, it's not the jar. It's something that lives in the mind and speaks very quietly, and I'm going to show you how it sabotages you without you noticing. Now comes the part almost no one wants to hear, but it's the most important part. The biggest enemy of this process is not the wrong salt, it's not the perfect jar, it's not even the exact spot. The biggest enemy is doubt, that low voice that sounds like this. This is silly. This won't change anything. I'm wasting my time. And that voice does something dangerous. It makes you start and then stop halfway. It makes you open the door and close it from the inside. That's why the rabbi was so firm when he told me, do it in silence, not to hide it out of fear, but to protect what you're building from two kinds of interference, the outside one and the inside one. Now I'm going to tell you 3 very practical things that cancel the process. 1. Telling someone. You tell someone. They give an opinion. The opinion becomes doubt. Doubt becomes testing. And testing becomes interruption. 2. Messing with it every day. You place it and keep checking, moving, watching for fast signs. That creates anxiety, and anxiety becomes noise. 3. Doing it from fear. I hope this works or I'm done. That's not intention, that's desperation. Intention is calm, it's decision. And I'm not asking for blind faith, I'm asking for respect for the process, for long enough that it can work on your heart and your daily life. Now, to close this the right way, there's one last thing missing, something almost no one teaches: when to change the salt and what to do with it afterward. And at the end, I'll give you a simple 7-day routine, so you don't start motivated and then abandon it, because I want to give you a way to do this without turning it into one more thing to carry. A lot of people start strong and quit because they're tired. So do this, 7 days, just 7, and you're not going to keep touching the jar. The jar stays still. What changes is the environment and your presence inside the home. Day 1, the decision. Choose one of the 5 places, just one. Prepare the jar calmly. Place it in silence, and then you're done. You don't need to do anything else. Day 2, a small opening. At the front door or the window, make a minimal gesture. Remove one thing blocking the path, or open the window for 1 minute. That's it. Day 3, a corner that breathes. Choose one small corner of the house and make it lighter. No perfection, just one corner. Day 4, the leak point. Check the trash or the drain and leave it closed and cared for. As if you were saying, nothing good gets lost here anymore. Day 5, sustenance. In the kitchen, organize 3 items, 3, just 3, and stop there. Day 6, silence. This is the most powerful day. You don't tell anyone, you don't explain, you simply observe how you feel inside the house. Day 7, the sign. On the 7th day, pay attention to one thing, the atmosphere. Did you sleep a little better? Did you argue less? Did you feel clearer? Did you finally resolve something that had been stuck? Those are the real signs. Now I want to do something with you, because this audience understands the value of marking a decision. If you're going to do these 7 days the right way, comment, "I close leaks and open doors," but type it calmly, like a choice, like someone closing one chapter and opening another. And now there's just one last piece to fully close this video: when to change the salt and what to do with it afterward. So here it is, simply, you leave the jar in the chosen place for one full cycle. If you want a clear rule, 30 days. After those 30 days, you change the salt. And what do you do with the old salt? You don't cook with it. You don't reuse it inside the home. You carefully remove it and take it out of your space, either in a tightly closed trash bag or outside the house, in the simplest and safest way. The idea is symbolic. What carried weight leaves my space. And that's it. Now let's recap. You have 5 places: the front door, the dark corner, the kitchen, the drain or trash, and the window. Choose one. Do it in silence. And avoid the 3 mistakes: telling others, messing with it, doing it from fear, and let the rest unfold. If you've stayed with me until this point, comment one more time so I know you're going to do this the right way. I close leaks and open doors. And just one more thing. In the next video, I'm going to show you the phrases that quietly close doors inside a home without us even realizing it, and the simple phrase that replaces them. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll see you there.